Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. I hope you all had lovely weekends. Today, our English lesson is going to focus on using reported speech, which is a new skill for you in Year 5. Okay, now if you remember last week, we were looking quite closely at direct speech, recapping the features that would need and applying that in our writing. Today, we're going to be looking for differences between that direct speech and reported speech. Okay, so if we have a look, first off to start, just have a look. I've got a blue sentence and a purple sentence there on the screen. What's the same? What's different? I've put talk to your partner there, talk to yourself, talk to a friend on the video, whatever you want. Pause me and then come back and we'll have a look together. Okay, so, well, if we look in terms of what's the same, we've got this first one. So we've got Liam explained, I really need your help, Florida. And then we've got Liam told Florida that he really needed her help. So one of the things I noticed straight away was actually the person talking is Liam in both sentences. Yeah, so we've got Liam explained and Liam told. Okay, so in both of them, we've got same speaker, we've got a verb. And I guess they're both saying sort of the same thing. They're both talking about Liam telling Florida that he needs her help. Okay. The main differences, I guess, well, this one, I saw straight away we had speech marks, feature, probably the most important feature of direct speech. And again, we've got our verb, comma, speech there. Whereas this one, I noticed there aren't any speech marks, okay? And instead of, over here, we've got, I really need your help, Florida. Here we've got Liam told Florida that he really needed her help. So the first one we've got I, your, and the next one we've got he and her. Why might that be? Well, in the first one, this is an example of direct speech. And this is, remember, when we're saying exactly what Liam has said. So he said, I really need your help, Florida. Now, this purple sentence is what we're going to be focusing on today. This is an example of reported or indirect, we can call it sometimes. Indirect being the opposite of direct speech. Okay, so this is when we're saying what Liam said to Florida without saying it exactly word for word. Okay, you happy to find out a bit more about this? Now, a bit like with the direct speech, there's quite a lot for me to go through, but this one there's lots of pause opportunities for you to think about and respond to what I'm asking you. Okay, so we just go over what I've said again. So when we're talking about the words that have been spoken by a character in writing, there's two ways, either direct speech or indirect or reported. Like I said, you can call that, it's just two different names, exactly the same thing. This one might help you because, like I said, it's literally the opposite of direct speech. Okay, so direct speech, we say exactly what he said. So we've got this alien here. I bid you farewell, Earthlings, shouted Iggy from his spaceship. This is exactly what he said, isn't it? Oh gosh, dodgy eye in there. You can see it here. Whereas if we're writing it in an indirect or reported speech sentence, we narrate it like this. We go, from his spaceship, Iggy bid farewell to the Earthlings. We haven't said exactly what's said in this speech bubble, have we? We've changed it slightly to report what's being said. So again, instead of, the first thing I noticed was in our direct, we had I, and then in this one, we've got Iggy, yeah? So we're changing kind of the way we're explaining who's speaking and what they're saying. Let's have a look further at that direct speech sentence. So if we look here, so let's look really carefully. So, I bid you farewell, Earthlings, shouted Iggy from his spaceship. If I move this to start with, so we've got, this bit here is exactly what Iggy said here, yeah? Exactly the same with our speech marks, okay? And there's no change. We haven't changed the order or anything like that. Exactly what was said in the exact same order. We've got our punctuation inside our inverted commas. Again, we know that's really important that we keep it inside. And then we've kind of said who it was that was saying it. We call this, the fancy word for it is a reporting clause. You don't need to worry about all of that. Basically, we're saying who said it and when. So shouted Iggy is that reporting who it was that said it from his spaceship. Just gives us extra information about where he was when he did that. Okay, so hopefully you're really comfortable with the way that that's laid out, because that's what we were looking at last week. Now, if we take a bit of a closer look at the reported or indirect speech, so we've got from his spaceship, there's no speech marks. big thing for today. No speech marks in reported speech. Okay? We've changed, instead of writing, I bid you farewell, earthlings, we've said, Iggy bid farewell to the earthlings. So if you look, okay, so we've got bid farewell is the same. So is earthlings. So bid farewell and earthlings, but the I and you has been changed. The I has been changed to Iggy, and the you has changed to the. Okay, so again, the main difference, we're talking about what someone said without exactly saying it. So instead of, you might say, for example, hello children, said Mrs. Elmore. That would be an example of direct speech. Yeah, and I'd use my speech marks. I'm saying exactly what was said. If I said, Mrs. Elmore said hello to the children, then that's reported, isn't it? I'm talking about what was said without saying it exactly. Okay, let's have a look at some more examples. Hopefully they'll help us out a bit more. So what I want you to do then, don't worry if you're not quite certain about how you would put together a reported or a direct speech sentence just yet. Let's just go play the indirect or direct game. Okay, so we've got a sentence here. I want you to tell me whether this is direct speech, exactly what's being said, or reported indirect speech. We're talking about what someone said. Kayla explained that she used to live in New York. Get your answer ready and think about how you know. Okay, I'm going to reveal it. 3, 2, 1. Did you guys put reported or indirect? If you did, you're absolutely correct. And the thing that made that jump out of the page for me, there's no speech marks. If it was direct speech, we'd need speech marks. This doesn't have any speech marks. We're talking, and again, you know, Kayla wouldn't say she used to live in New York about herself. She would say, I used to live in New York. So we'd have Kayla explained, I used to live in New York. That would be direct speech, okay? But we've changed the I to she because we're talking about what she said. We're not saying exactly what she said, okay? What about this one then? So if this is an example of directed speech, by the way, where would you put the commas? Okay, so think out. So watch out, screamed George as he launched the frisbee. What do you reckon? Have a little think, get your answer ready. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of a clue here in that I had to block them out. But if you put that this was direct speech, then you would be correct because watch out is exactly what George is saying. Watch out, screamed George as he launched the frisbee. Yeah, we're saying exactly what he said. Whereas if it was reported speech, I might say, George screamed at the other children to watch out as he launched the frisbee. Yeah, can you hear how I've changed that? So to watch out, I've added in extra words to make it make sense without saying exactly what he said. Okay, so we've had one example of reported, one example of direct. What about then, now we didn't have this sentence earlier, so ignore that first bit, but what about, I wonder if you could change this. So at the moment, this is indirect or reported. Guthrum announced that they should charge towards the village. Okay, we're talking about what Guthrum has said to his group of soldiers down here. How could you change that to direct speech? Think about what you might need. Why don't you pause me, have a go at writing it down as a direct speech sentence, and then come back and we'll compare our answers. Okay, let's have a look. We've got here, we should charge towards the village, announced Guthrum. Okay, what's changed? How have I changed that to direct speech? Well, firstly, I've added speech marks. Okay, and where are my speech marks? My speech marks are around the thing that Guthrum has said. We should charge towards the village. Now, if we look here, it says they should charge towards the village because I'm talking about Guthrum and his group of people. I'm not in that group of people. Guthrum is talking about all of them together. And when you include yourself, you say we, don't you? So the pronoun, words that we use to talk about or refer to people, has changed. He's including himself in it because he is the one talking. We should charge towards the village, announced Guthrum. Still some bits that have stayed the same. We've got the announced Guthrum, Guthrum announced. Yeah, charge towards the village, stayed the same. Because what's being said isn't changing. It's just the thing that's changing is how we're talking about it. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Perhaps if you're unsure, perhaps write down those two together so that you've got something to refer back to when you're having a go at your own. Okay. Right, now I want us to do the opposite. And I'd say this is probably the trickiest side of today's lesson. I've always found that going from direct to indirect is a lot easier, because I just imagine, well, what would I say if I was telling someone what they had said without actually being the speaker? Going the other way is a little bit harder. Okay, so don't worry if this feels new. We've got 2 more days. We're going to do Tuesday and Wednesday. Miss Rutherford's going to look at with you at how we can put this into our writing. So yeah, don't stress. Okay, so here we've got the opposite. So the doctor gently said, open your mouth as wide as possible. This is direct speech. We know we've got the speech marks around exactly what she said. Okay, so how would you turn that into reported speech? How would you tell somebody what the doctor had told him? Okay, again, have a go, pause me, come back when you're ready and we'll have a little look. Right, now there's lots of ways of doing this, by the way. This is just one way, but the doctor gently told the patient that he should open his mouth as wide as possible. Again, what's changed here? Now, I would say it's not the only one, but quite often told is a really useful word when we're using reported speech. Okay, so told the patient that he, so we're saying what she said to him, should open his mouth as wide as possible. Now, one other thing is that, and I might just go back to here real quick. Yeah, so one other thing to think about is your tense. That is often the reason we change with reported speech. When someone is talking out loud, when we're doing direct speech, it's often in present tense because they're saying it like right here, right now, yeah? So I'm going to go to the park or something like that, or I am going to the park, yeah? If I said, so we could have Mrs. Elmore said, I am going to the park. If I wanted to change that into reported, then I would say Mrs. Elmore said that she, so change the I to she, was going to the park, past tense. Okay, so that's another thing there, guys. Direct speech, normally present tense, the stuff that's being said. Reported, past. We're saying what has been said. Okay, so that's why we've got the told and we've got he should open his mouth as wide as possible. Okay, so the last thing for me to say to you today is, like I said, this is a new skill. And normally, I think we do lots of exploring in the classroom together. So just give it your best bet today, okay? I really believe that you can have a really good go at this. And by the end of the week, we can have reported speech nailed, all right? But for today's activities, it's all on one sheet. So what you'll find is the activity sheet, it will say learning, using and exploring. And what you can do is you can choose your level. Now, I want everybody, because this is a new skill, to choose either learning or using to start with. Okay, so learning, you've got a thing where you choose whether it's indirect or direct speech and just explain why. So is it that you know it's direct because it's got speech marks, or you know it's reported because it says he instead of I, or whatever. And then there's some other bits to do after that. Using, I want you to do that changing like we did in that exercise just there. So changing direct to reported and the other way around. Once you've done one of those, if you want a little bit more practice, then there is a little on the second page. There's a mini burst, which is to do a reviews of the performance of the BFG Liam Stars in using a range of direct and reported speech. And there's a mini waggle on there to have a go with as well. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple of reminders up. I think this is the most important thing. So for a reported speech, you're going to use, so change I to another pronoun, e.g. he, she. You're going to change to past tense and no speech marks. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. Good luck. Let us know if you've got any problems and you're stuck. Email Miss Rutherford. She's going to be on the computer today. But if you've got any examples of work you want to share with me, I'd love to see it as well as normal. All right. Take it steady, Eddies. Bye.